In the very heart of Germany, not far from a quiet little village, lies an abandoned Porsche factory, now just a shadow of its former glory. Time and nature have taken their toll, enveloping it in a shroud of moss and rust. But recently, this forgotten place has become the center of attention thanks to a group of enthusiasts exploring automotive history. Breaking into the abandoned, echoing workshops, they unexpectedly stumbled upon something that looked like an ordinary dusty classic car model. At first glance, nothing hinted at a sensation. Just an ordinary car, standing beneath a layer of dust, bearing witness to decades of neglect. However, everything changed when one of the explorers, peering under the hood, made an incredible discovery. Instead of the standard engine typical for that era, they were faced with a unique design that no one had ever heard of. The engine, surrounded by mysterious components, seemed like an anomaly, something that shouldn't have existed at that time. The engineers brought in to analyze the find were astonished. It was a development that seemed to have fallen out of the future. After discovering this strange prototype, enthusiasts and experts tried to find any documents or references to the project, but the factory remained completely silent. Databases, archives, and even old magazines yielded no traces. Everything pointed to the fact that this car had been created in total secrecy. But why? Why was such a development left to rot in a forgotten part of the factory? Only the most perceptive viewers might suspect what else this story is hiding. It's intriguing to wonder what will happen if this engine can be started. An inexplicable technology from the past. After carefully examining the find, the team discovered that the technology the enthusiasts had stumbled upon did not fit within the conventional boundaries of the automotive industry of that era. The engine they brought to light turned out to be not just rare, it was absolutely unique. Its design included complex mechanisms and components that did not exist in car engines of the last century. These were parts that are familiar to us today but could not possibly have appeared decades ago. And that is precisely what made the discovery so inexplicable. How could Porsche have possessed such advanced developments, yet left them forgotten? Engineers and historians devoted many hours to understanding when and how this engine was created. Gas discharge lamps and unusual materials used in the engine's construction were not everyday items at that time. Experimental technologies that could have been breakthroughs in automotive engineering appeared in the most unexpected ways and, it seemed, without any logical connection. Researchers asked themselves, if such a unique development was left unnoticed, could it be hiding even more secret patterns and intentions? But that's not all. As they continued their research, specialists encountered a complete lack of drawings or records that could shed light on this project. Amazingly, there is no mention of this engine in any of the company's archives. This created the impression that the project had been deliberately erased from history. It seemed as if every possible trace of this development had vanished, as though someone had carefully swept them away. It's incomprehensible that such a technology could have been created and then hidden away for centuries. And now, in this mysterious factory, the question arises, why was the strategy of concealment chosen instead of development and implementation? Delving into this mystery, they are getting closer to uncovering something that remained hidden from an entire generation, an engine ahead of its time. As they continued to study the engine, the experts began to notice striking technical solutions that exceeded all expectations. The design turned out to be incredibly lightweight, which made it possible to use fuel more efficiently than in modern cars. Amazingly, some parts of the engine suggested the use of innovative methods that are only now becoming available in the automotive industry. For example, the fuel injection system was designed to optimize consumption without reducing power. This was truly a revolutionary solution for its time. The team of engineers also discovered that the engine was designed for much higher speeds than were possible in the mid-20th century. After examining the materials used in its construction, they were amazed to find components resistant to high temperatures and pressures. All of this gave the impression that the technology was created with the future in mind, rather than the realities of that era. But even more astonishing, inside the engine, they found elements similar to modern control and diagnostic systems, which have only begun to be implemented in recent years. These unique components showed that the developers working on the project clearly possessed incredible foresight. These discoveries raised even more questions about why such impressive technology was forgotten. Do such discoveries always remain in the shadow of a great future? After all, if this engine had seen the light of day, perhaps the state of the automotive industry would be completely different. Now, as they delve deeper into the factory's secrets, the researchers are left wondering whether these were the fruits of brilliant minds or if something more sinister is hidden behind this project. They are only on the threshold of new discoveries that could shake our understanding of what the path of technological development might have been. Why hide innovations? As they delve into the question of why advanced technologies capable of transforming the automotive industry were hidden, the researchers encounter a multitude of possible reasons. One of the first issues that arises is competition. Perhaps someone at the top decided that revealing such technologies could destabilize the market, putting the company's profits at risk for many years to come. In an era when the automotive industry heavily relied on tried-and-true solutions, innovative ideas might have seemed too risky. There are also other possible explanations. Perhaps the development was part of a secret military contract, which would explain such a high level of secrecy. Such contracts often required the company to operate under the strictest confidentiality, without publicizing the technologies they develop. This scenario would explain why there are no official records of the engine. We should not forget about possible internal conflicts either. Revolutionary ideas often encounter resistance within an organization. Perhaps the project was in the hands of a small group of engineers whose work did not receive the necessary recognition and funding. In the internal struggle for resources and attention, promising initiatives could have simply been shut down. But this story is not limited to just hypotheses. Researchers begin to notice that rumors are swirling around the factory about the mysterious disappearance of several engineers. Were they working on that very project, and did they know more than corporate secrecy allowed? The veil of mystery becomes increasingly impenetrable, and soon viewers realize that there are even more new questions than answers. The mystery of the missing engineers. Immersed in the captivating atmosphere of the mysterious factory, the researchers began to study documents and references that could shed light on the creators of this enigmatic engine. Alongside the search for an answer to the question, why were such advanced technologies hidden from the world? An even more intriguing mystery surfaced: the disappearance of several key engineers. These people, as it turned out, were closely connected to the project, and their traces seemed to have vanished into thin air. In the archives, many of which had gathered dust for decades, references were found to several engineers who, shortly after working on the mysterious development, left the Porsche company. On paper, their departure was explained by personal reasons. However, such a coincidence seemed highly suspicious. A careful study of old newspapers and records showed that they were highly qualified specialists, and their departure caused bewilderment among their colleagues. Interestingly, according to some journalists of that time, these engineers were supposed to work on secret projects, and it is possible that they were the ones behind the creation of the prototype. However, they soon disappeared without a trace. None of them returned to the automotive industry, and their subsequent fate remains unknown. This disappearance gave rise to many rumors and speculations, but no exact information has survived. These mysterious circumstances make one wonder what could have prompted such serious precautions. Perhaps the answer lies in the untold pages of the company's history, where the real reason for concealing the technology and the disappearance of those involved may be hidden. But the real sensation is that unexpected forces, which researchers are only beginning to suspect, may be behind these disappearances. What will happen if the prototype is launched? Imagine what could happen if this mysterious car prototype is successfully started. What if this engine, which has lain dormant for decades, finally reveals its true capabilities? The engineers working on this discovery immersed themselves in calculations and tests to understand just how powerful it really is. From a technical standpoint, starting up such an engine could be a real challenge. After all, the parts and mechanisms have been affected by the passage of time, although it's remarkable how well they've been preserved. The engineers are concerned about possible risks of overload or even detonation, given the instability of some components due to their age. Nevertheless, the research team is extremely interested in the possibilities that are opening up before them. If this engine were to start, it could turn their work into a project of global significance. Tests conducted under safe conditions have shown that some of the systems, such as fuel injection and control, can actually function with incredible efficiency. Scientists and engineers insist on maintaining strict control and safety during any experiments involving the startup of this machine. But is there something more behind this research? A possible discovery could change our perception of the history of automotive engineering and the technologies of that era. If the engine really does start, it will not only be a historic event, but also a challenge to modern notions of progress. In the face of this uncertainty, every step requires caution and confidence. The only question is what secrets will be revealed and where this exciting discovery will lead. Secret developments or myths? The question of whether these developments were real or simply the product of human imagination only deepens the mystery. Throughout their trips to the archives and the study of documents, researchers encountered a number of myths surrounding the automotive industry in the mid-20th century. These myths describe magnificent technologies capable of changing the world, but which were never realized. And now, in an abandoned Porsche workshop, it seems that some of these myths have taken shape. Researchers hold in their hands evidence of the existence of such technologies, but the lack of official documents and blueprints raises doubts. Some experts believe that such developments may have been the product of imagination or the result of professional tales about the engineering genius of that era. Nevertheless, the discovery itself is as real as it is inexplicable, and it makes one wonder, could there have been even more such forgotten prototypes in other corners of the world? The question of whether these discoveries were part of secret development sparks debates in scientific circles. Perhaps it was an experiment that for some reason was decided to be kept secret in order to prevent the potential consequences of introducing it too early. History knows many cases when incredible projects after being tested were simply shelved or postponed for the future, which might have been the case here as well. Now, in the face of a mystery that has lasted for years, engineers and historians are joining forces to unravel one of the most intriguing episodes in automotive history. And although there is still no clear answer, the very idea of secret technologies that have eluded the public continues to captivate minds and promises new discoveries in the world of engineering achievements. What was myth and what was reality is yet to be determined in the next chapters of this captivating story. The consequences of the revealed secret. And now we've reached the moment when the truth comes to light. The discovery of the engine and its potential launch caused a real sensation in the automotive industry. News about the discovery from the depths of the Porsche factory spread at incredible speed, attracting the attention of both experts and the general public. Questions that had remained unanswered for decades began to find explanations. Some automotive companies became seriously interested in reviving these technologies, seeing in them the potential to revolutionize their products. The secrecy that had surrounded the engine now sparked not only interest, but also serious discussions at the level of major corporations. Negotiations began about the possible implementation of unique solutions in modern models, which triggered a wave of innovation. However, things were not so straightforward. The revelation of the secret also led to legal consequences. Questions arose about the rights to technologies created decades ago, as well as about who now owns these discoveries. Representatives of Porsche, along with other automakers, were forced to enter into complex negotiations to determine how the discovered ideas would be used and protected. But the most promising prospect is the new horizons for technological development. Inspired by this discovery, researchers and engineers began to consider the possibilities of creating even more advanced prototypes. The question of whether this discovery was just the beginning of something bigger still remains on the agenda. However, thanks to this breakthrough, the automotive industry now has a chance to rethink and renew the principles that underlie modern transportation.